Minister, when did you become aware that MH370 was missing?
Sometime that morning.
What time?
Does it matter?
In a storytelling sense, yes.
Yeah, but again, the timeline will show, and I think when the inquiries actually take place, do you really think that Malaysia can hide the way things have unfolded?
Of course not.
No.
But that
so
isn't.
Why don't we?
This is not a controversial question.
Sure, it's not.
When you found out,
and basically, we're trying to coordinate 26 countries for a search. Now, working into a deep sea search as we talk today. The last thing on my mind is trying to figure out what time that I got that information.
Well, I'll put it to you like this: in a storytelling sense, for a documentary,
right?
Take us back to that day, March the 8th. How were you informed that the plane had disappeared?
There were phone calls, the DCA, and I'm in a way quite fortunate that I'm also the Minister of Defence. I think no one out there is holding two portfolios. This is divine. And I had calls from the Air Force, so many lines of communication. And it happened. You have to understand, what time it happened. You have to also understand where it happened. It was at the time in which they moved into Vietnamese airspace. There was a period of time that we were really trying to figure out, between MAS, the DCA, the military, getting information to the Prime Minister, me as putting my hat on as the acting Minister of Transport, and then dealing with the military in that respect. So there were many ways in which information was coming in. But personally, on my part, like anybody else, this information has got to be digested. We have to look at it calmly.
So were you aware that it was missing before it was due to land at 6:30?
Sorry?
Were you aware that MH370 was missing before it was due to land?
Yes. There was an indication that they were not in the radar. There was no more communication. We had to confirm with the Vietnamese authorities. Then we had to get the militaries activated. Then we have to get MAS to verify and corroborate. And then we have to get all those countries involved on board.
Did Air Traffic Control try and contact MH370 that morning?
I'm sure they did, but I think I cannot today confirm one way or the other, because unless I have it in front of me today, that sort of questions are so detailed that I do not want to be cornered and be misquoted.
Air Traffic Control, as we understand it, knew that MH370 wasn't responding to radio calls, etc., from around 1:32 a.m.
Yes.
4.5 hours pass.
Right.
What happened in those 4.5 hours from the Malaysian perspective to try and locate the plane?
Well, I think that I want to know too. And
you don't know?
Of course, I've heard stories from and reports from all sources, but based on other speculation and based on doubts, I want to be sure, being the minister responsible, what comes out there is credible and is corroborated and it is verified. Now, if there are areas that we can learn from this, I'll be the first to admit it.
Well, you are the one who can verify and corroborate, and that is why I'm sitting with you today.
And I will answer with the panel of experts, because they will be asking not speculative questions. They will be asking whether standard operating procedures have been followed, international standards of civil aviation codes have been followed, and that will come up.
Will you confirm
and I'm quite confident of that.
Will you confirm how many times DCA and Air Traffic Control tried to contact MH370?
Well, you have to actually get the DCA to do it, not today. I mean, if you give me time to find out, because these questions were not given to me in advance. There are 1,000,001 questions out there that have been so detailed. I don't think we can answer it all in this interview that we have today. I'm not being defensive. I've got nothing really to avoid because what we have done since the beginning, everybody actually that I've spoken to, including leaders from nations that have got a longer history of aviation history, and said that this is something that is baffling to all.
Baffling, yes. You as Minister for Defence then, and this should not be controversial, and this is really a key point here, and it was in my list of questions. MH370 flew through multiple military radar zones.
Right.
Did the Malaysian military detect MH370 in real time?
We detected an airline, but I think we've gone on record to say that it was not identified at that time as MH370.
But an aircraft, unidentified, was detected that morning?
That came out. I've said that at the beginning, and I think that's confirmed by the Prime Minister too.
What did the military do when it was detected?
Well, I mean, it is an airline that came from our airspace. It's a commercial airline, and the military has actually said that they didn't consider it as a hostile aircraft.
Why? What were they relying on to come to the conclusion that it wasn't hostile?
Well, that's a call by the officer that was in charge of it. And like I said earlier, there was an inquiry under the Royal Military Air Force. That will come out too.
So who was on duty? How many people?
Well, I mean, these sort of questions, like I said, is not going to get us very far.
Well, what we're trying to understand is
I don't understand
the level of knowledge
I understand
and surveillance.
Right, but you need the experts. You know, like I said, we are talking about going through multiple countries' military airspace. You need to talk to every single country out there about their military capability. If that's the line of questioning that you want to ask about Malaysia. What is more important is for us to actually understand how we looked at moving from the South China Sea to the Straits of Malacca, what happened, and can we just agree that those sort of details are going to come out anyway. I don't think it's so controversial that it's going to be something that will impact so much on what we are investigating.
In hindsight, is that unfortunate that the decision was made, it wasn't hostile?
Well, it's not for me to judge, you know. I mean, do you want, we didn't go through a situation like the September 11th. Americans were not prepared then. And it took 2 planes to crash into 2 twin towers, Pentagon, and on the way to Washington, for them to have the present SOP. We are not at war with anybody right now. So do you really think that I want to put our Sukhois on high alert with special SOPs in that kind of situation?
But why not send the jets up? If you have conceded earlier that you knew very early in the morning the plane was missing. There was 4.5 hours time in which to respond and find out.
It was not hostile, it was commercial, it was from our airspace, we're not at war with anybody.
If they did go up, in hindsight, would you agree